What is the most popular white wine in Spain? It's a good question because if you think about it, when you go to a new place, you sort of go, well, what do the locals eat and drink? So what is it that the locals, the Spanish, drink in Spain? Well, the answer is, you guessed it because you saw what the title of this episode was, The White Wines of Rueda. And that's what we're having today. I've got 3 of them. And they're absolutely ruddy gorgeous. And yet, over here, we don't see them very much. I don't know. I've got a theory. I wonder it's because for non-Spanish speakers, Rueda just means Rueda. But for Spanish people, it means wheel. So much so, and I had to look this up, I don't speak Spanish, but the flag of the region of Rueda, it has a wheel on the bottom of it, and Rueda means wheel. So there you go, a little bit of a sort of top tip for you. Dinner party conversation, we like to go and give that across. Oh, this is nice. This, now I'm going to start straight away. I've got Baronia Rueda. This is a Verdejo, need to tell you about that, 2019. So, here's a little bit about Rueda. So Rueda's kind of north-central Spain, okay? Slightly off to the left. It's a relatively small region, and it's not nearly well enough known. Go and buy it immediately, both in the home and in restaurants. It is a top tip for restaurants. I'll tell you more about that later. Bizarrely, unusually, it is an almost exclusively white wine region. There is a very small amount of Tempranillo that they grow, or Tinto Fino, they call it. But it's almost entirely white because it's really high up. So the region is about half a mile high, 750 metres, which is properly high. And so it means it has these brutal, frigid, bitter winters. Vines are masochists, they love it. Honestly, vines absolutely love that because it means they have a proper sleep in the winter. And then in the summer it gets really, really warm and you get this amazing ripening that comes in, but you're very, very high up and you're very exposed. It's also very dry, which drives the roots deep down into this frankly rubbish soil, good for grapes, rubbish for everything else, drives them down. And then what they do is they form a kind of mesh over the rocks, very, very deep down, which creates concentrated flavours in your wine. I can smell them. But it also means that they have access to water. What they do is they cover the rocks in a kind of fine mesh and they gradually leach the water out of it so that they ripen right throughout the season. There are 32,500 acres of vineyards, and almost all of them are this grape variety, Verdejo. Verdejo, it's fascinating. So Verdejo arrives in Spain in the 12th century, so 11th, 12th century, and it's bought reputedly by this group of people called the Mozarabs. And the Mozarabs were the Christians who sort of lived quite happily alongside the Islamic rulers of the Iberian Peninsula. So much so that when the Pope sort of sent people to liberate them, by all accounts, they were sort of quite happy. They went, no, we're quite happy. We're getting on very well here. And I think they sort of didn't really want to be liberated by the rest of the church. Anyway, they are sort of most famous because the oldest book in paper in Europe is the Mozarab Missal. And there was a missal breviary, like a sort of order of service for the different days of the year. And the Mozarab Missal breviary is the oldest paper book. Before that there are parchment books, the oldest paper book in Europe. Anyway, so they bring this grape variety from North Africa and they plant it in Rueda, but for about 800 years, 900 years, nobody does anything with it. And it makes this sort of rubbishy, very oxidised, very old-fashioned traditional style of wine. Until 40 years ago, it's his birthday this year. Just before then, there's a guy called Émile Pernod, comes from Bordeaux, amazing guy, and he wrote a book called the Gudiman, Taste of Wine, and it was one of the great books on viticulture that changed the way, particularly French winemakers, but also some Spanish winemakers made their wines. I think it was the second wine book I ever owned after Serena Sutcliffe's book. Anyway, he says to them, you've got this extraordinary grape variety, and what it should be making is something like this, which is fresh and lively, zippy. And let me have a taste. Zingy, tangy, it's linear. It's got this extraordinary spine of freshness. I shudder to use the word acidity because I know that puts some people off. Don't be put off. It's beautifully fresh and zippy, and it's got this citrus character. It's like a squeeze of lime and a bit of lemon in there. Oh, it's good. And it was a bit like Sauvignon Blanc, but kind of grown up. Not that Sauvignon Blanc's not grown up, but it's got more peach than pure lemon lime. It has this character of fennel about it, and in fact I've still got it on the aftertaste here. So it's a little bit more herbal and vegetal. When I say vegetal, that sort of sounds wrong. It's sort of salad and interesting, more savoury characteristics. Oh, it's good. And it's really nice and food friendly. So anyway, he said, you should go and make this style of wine. 40 years ago they did, and this is what we end up with today. If you like Sauvignon Blanc, you are going to adore this. If you like Sauvignon Blanc on its own, this is what you need when you have a meal. And that's the sort of real key. This is a sort of food-loving style of Sauvignon Blanc. I'm not going to knock Sauvignon. In fact, we're about to go and try one, the next one. But Verdejo is what you have with sort of food. And I tell you what, it kind of goes with everything. I'll give you a sort of bizarre example. A friend of mine, Fiona Beckett, wrote a really lovely little short book about the Wines of Rueda. And she said in it, oh, it goes really well with lamb. I was like, yeah, of course it does. So I thought I would test this, and this is my little. In fact, this is my first recipe of 2 today. So what I do is I make lamb kebabs, lamb on skewers. I'll sort of chop it up, and I quite like to make a bit of a marinade with paprika, smoked and regular, a bit of garlic. Sometimes, what else do we put in it? Lemon juice is really nice. Even cumin, put that in. Some people are looking horrified, and yoghurt. And what I quite like to do is you mix it all with yoghurt, and you mix the whole thing up with the yoghurt. And the yoghurt starts to marinate the lamb first, but then it also means that when you cook it, it sort of sticks on, so you get a kind of thicker glaze of the marinade. With that, it was absolutely fabulous. So do it under a proper grill, so that it gets char grilled on the top. A glass of Verdejo from Rueda. Oh, it's good. So if you're in a restaurant, go and order Verdejo, because it sort of goes with everything. So if somebody's going and having lamb, and somebody's got chicken, and somebody's got fish, and somebody's got seafood, somebody's got the vegetarian option, because there's a vegetarian. In fairness, I think this is vegan. I know the next one is. Everybody gets a wine that they really like. It's really, really good. Anyway, I mentioned Sauvignon Blanc, which is interesting, because what do we have here? This is Excellence Marcas de Caceres Sauvignon Blanc 2018 in Rueda. Historically, what used to happen is that you're allowed to add a bit of Sauvignon Blanc in your Verdejo. But over time, people have realised that the Sauvignon Blanc is really good on its own, and the Verdejo is great on its own, and they are distinctive in their own character. So here we have this slightly more herbal, fuller-bodied style of Sauvignon. This is immediately fresher, more citrusy, but I tell you what, oof! It's less exotic than New World Kiwi kind of Sauvignon, which makes it much better for food, but it's got more fruit than French, Sancerre, Cassis, Puy Fumé. So it's again a really good food-friendly pairing. Works with all sorts, and it still has. They have identical lines of freshness because of this real high altitude and because of this acidity that comes through. Oh, it's lovely. Immediate kind of sweetness right at the beginning, and then your palate. It's gorgeous and long. I'm trying to think what to go and have with this. I'll tell you what I'd have with this. Hake. I think it's Series 2 of the wine show. Go back. Get yourself on Amazon Prime. Series 2. And I cook it with a very, very famous chef. I'll have you know. And he said that my chopping of garlic and chili was muy bien. I'm not going to give any more away. We made hake. Really good with hake. It's quite a meaty fish. It needs a bit of heft about it. And this is the perfect wine. With garlic and chili and flavours like that. I can see why the Spanish enjoy this so much. Oh, it's really lovely. Now then. Phylloxera nearly killed out this region in the 19th century. It nearly died entirely. But it's managed to go and revive and sort of come back. And it's come back in a way with a great variety that it knows the best. Now, the last wine. What do we have here? José Pariente, Rueda. This is Verdejo fermentado in barrica. I will translate, for those of you who don't speak immaculate Spanish like me. This is Verdejo fermented in a barrel. You'd work that one out. I have never tried this before. Just before when I came on, and I thought I'd give it a try. This has opened my eyes. So Verdejo, we know Verdejo's a bit like Sauvignon Blanc, but it's sort of bigger and richer, and it has a bit more herbal character to it. Now, Sauvignon Blanc in different parts of the world. So if you go to the Napa Valley, you get Fumé Blancs. If you go to Puy Fumé, particularly, people do a bit of barrel aging, or barrel fermenting of Sauvignon. In New Zealand, sometimes the sort of top end ones. Now, it's smoky, but not excessively so. There is a sort of creamy food edge to this. Now, this is not woody by a long chalk. It's just complex and rich and interesting, and it's about half the price that you pay for barrel-aged Sauvignon Blancs and things from elsewhere in the world. Now, this is a barrel-aged Verdejo. This starts sweeter, and that's from being in a barrel. But it's long and complex and slightly spiced. I'd have that very happily, maybe not with steak, but if I'm having a kind of interesting Near Eastern, European, slightly Levantine kind of meaty dish. Particularly if you're having those sort of foods where there's lots of different stuff. I don't know about you, but I've been eating lots of things where I might have some lamb on a skewer, I might have some baba ganoush, there's a bit of salad here, we might have some fish. We've been trying all sorts over the summer. Spicy prawns. Goes with a lot of them. It's absolutely gorgeous. So there you go. That's why Spanish people aren't daft, because they know that this is the best place to go and get white wines, and that's why they go and buy them from the Wines of Rueda. Now, what we've pulled out here are three kind of representative styles of the wines that you find. So you find these really great value regular Verdejos. Sauvignon Blanc is this key variety that you've got to go and look out for. And often, not often, it used to be in the past you'd go and find that there would be Verdejo with some Sauvignon Blanc in it. Now, actually, more increasingly you find pure Verdejos to really bring out that character, and pure Sauvignon Blancs to go and bring out the character there. What they both share is this really clean, fresh acidity. And then this style, which I've not seen very much, and we should see a lot more of it, which is this barrique fermented style. There is this distinction, always bear in mind with this, a little bit of a wine lesson for you, the distinction between barrel aged and barrel fermented, and this is much more elegant. Barrel fermented is where it's a much more subtle thing. You actually ferment it in the barrel. It's quite hard to go and do, and you get a much more subtle integration of the various flavours. When it's barrel aged, which you do with lots of reds and so on, for white wines it sometimes just becomes too gawky and it's too obvious. This is just beautifully knitted together. I'm wondering what to have. Boquerones? Oh, that would be nice. Okay. Oh, you know what? This is absolutely true. Tonight I'm having a chorizo stew. So what you do is you take, deep fry some chorizo, put that to one side because you want it crispy, and then I fry some onions in kind of strips, with lots of pimento and a little bit of chili and smoked paprika, that kind of thing. So you fry that all off, a bit of garlic in there as well. Do it nice and gently, you don't want to rush this, take it easy. Add butter beans to it, so they sort of froth away. With some of the butter beans you want a little bit of the juice as well, just to give it a bit of liquid. Put in some peppers, sliced peppers, put those in as well. Let those kind of bubble away and soften in. And when the whole thing has sort of softened and it's all beautiful, you add back in those little pimento bits that you fried right at the beginning. Of course, the brilliant bit is because you fry them at the beginning, you leach out the chorizo oil. So that's all sort of leached into the dish. And you serve it with what I do is I get a pita bread, quickly toss it in olive oil and a little bit of salt, not too much. Got to watch our diet, and then I bake that in the oven. So you get these sort of crisps made from pita breads. That and my chorizo stew. I might put the recipe up actually. Shall I put the recipe up? We'll do that. Excellent. Wines of Rueda. Go and buy them. Later on, all the details are down. Remember to like, share and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you again in a week or so. I think we've got some quite interesting stuff coming up next week. So I look forward to seeing you then. Cheers.